So now I'd like to give the floor to Dalib.
Kristen, do you want a particular slide up there or anything? Or?
Do you want to put the last one up?
Good evening. I'm naturally loud, so you might not have to adjust it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know a little bit about cameras, so I'm sure you're more professional than I. My name is Dalib, and I'm the Somali Home School Liaison for the district. And I have been working here for about 13 years now, and that's how long I've been in the US. Because when we go through the process of coming here, we are told that once you get to America, you have to find a job right away. So that is why I found this job. Well, actually, we came in 2004, July 15, 2004. 1 week after arriving here, I found a job at some factory work in Essex that I did not like. So I didn't go to that one. And then another week, so 2 weeks of my arrival, I started working here. So that is why it's like, I've been in America for 13 years. I have been working for the school for 13 years. So I'm here today because our director wanted me to come and talk to you a little bit about my experience and how the community as a whole, how they are feeling about the executive order. So, well, before we get into that, and I totally understand why Aftaba did not want to come and read those poems because not easy thing to talk about. Anyhow, let me just make this clear. It was not our personal choice to be refugees. You may already know this, but I came across so many people asking me why we chose to be refugees. In fact, we did not choose to be refugees. We became refugees because we experienced many, many horrifying things. I came to Vermont 13 years ago from a very crowded refugee camp in Kenya. I was born in a small but beautiful country named Somalia, which has become so famous for its political chaos, humanitarian disaster, and its ceaseless fighting that has erupted decades ago and is still current. Life in Somalia was okay before the war, but civil war rapidly changed the country. What used to be a beautiful country instantaneously became a battleground, a place where civilians are tortured and killed in massive numbers. When I first came to Vermont, the Vermont Refugee Resettlement Program approached me and wanted me to talk at an event about our culture and why we chose to come and live in the US. I was very shocked and confused and afraid, and because to talk in front of so many people in a language that isn't your native one would be difficult for anybody, right? But quite frankly, that's not why I was afraid. I was afraid because I did not want to talk about a war, a civil war that disfigured our country and wiped out so many innocent lives. I didn't want to mention one word about the war because the war really damaged us. It damaged us internally and externally. So in other words, I didn't want to bring bad past memories back. Well, actually, to give you a brief highlight of some of the things that the war did to us, is that, look, we were landlords. We had our own land and possessions like a large farm, a farm that grew a lot of food that fed majority of the people in the country, even sometimes was shipped overseas. We had beautiful houses. We were living middle-class life, middle-class citizens. We had no problem. But the war changed all that. From being a middle-class citizen, it brought us down to a level of being very poor and desperate people. Desperate for food that we once grew, and even donated a portion of it. Desperate for houses that we once used to have fancy ones. Desperate to get away from bullets that struck people continuously every day. Many things changed in the country during the war. The number of people starving swiftly rose. Soon water was never enough and food was scarce. The number of people dying were more than we could count. The number of children let go on the streets on their own increased every day. The danger kept escalating. The number of women raped every day were numberless. The number of people dying every day were more than we could count. The number of children became orphans every day kept growing. The looting that people faced just became normal. The number of people became depressed from these obstacles were numerous. Homeowners rapidly became homeless because all the houses were demolished. The city became a mass of frightened people desperate to get out before they were killed. Men, women, and children clogged the streets and jammed transportation places and tried to leave the country by any means they possibly could. The solution was very clear. My parents wanted us to have freedom, good education, and a better future like any of you here would want for their children. But to stay in Somalia at the time was to wait for your death. So we had to leave Somalia to a better place. Leaving the country became people's number one priority, but for many, leaving the country was really baffling. It was baffling to people because first, where would you go and how would you escape? There wasn't much of transportation available, and whatever transportation available was unaffordable, and it also involved risking your life. Many people had to take the chance of walking to a neighboring country so far without enough food, water, and with the lack of any sort of protection. There were greater risk of wildlife attacking people and feasting on their flesh. The rest of the people, those considered lucky and had some money, got onto very congested trucks known as construction trucks in the US. The ride was substantially risky. People were forced to sit on other people. You could not refuse it. If you kept refusing somebody to sit on you, you will be beaten so badly until you paralyzed from pain. Situations were so critical that many people died on every trip. The major causes of deaths were the severe beatings, lack of food, water, and suffocation from being on the bottom of the truck and people sitting on you. Sometimes passengers were thrown off the truck in the middle of the bush for not good reason. Passengers, including very young children and old people who were already so exhausted from such difficult and overcrowded ride. So many of us finally got to the border of Kenya, where we've met with the United Nations, who resettled us camps in Kenya and named us refugees. Yes, they named us refugees, something that we never dreamed of being one. In Kenya, life was very difficult, and it still is for those who are still there. There are no jobs, and the description that I can give you about these camps are that they're in a very dry, hot place in the middle of nowhere. And the people that live in these camps are very desperate people, desperate for everything, desperate for food, clean water, healthcare, and education. It is so much difficult for these individuals, some of whom have escaped from war and famine and diseases that widely spread in their countries. Life in the refugee camp is harsh. Some of the girls engage in early marriages. You will see underage kids with so many kids. The agencies did not provide clothes to the refugees, so you will see children running around naked while adults cover themselves with torn clothes. The WFP, World Food Program, issues food rations to the refugees every 15 days. The rations are not really enough and consist of mainly flour and maize and some cooking oil and some salt. And the maize is boiled, a little oil added to make a meal. So the refugees live under inhuman conditions. Some families, as many as 10 people, share one hut. And if it rains, it's a disaster because everywhere leaks. You have to try to sleep a place where the rain won't reach you, but you'll never be successful because everywhere in the shack is leaking. So after so many years in this harsh life, the United States government recognized us a vulnerable, extremely vulnerable refugee population, and we were given a process to be resettled us to America, which made all of us much happier. The process is not as easy as it seems. It's very long, and you have to go through so many interviews and medical exams. And so we had to show a good reason why we wanted to come and live in the US. Sometimes the interviewers will interview a family separately in different rooms, and you have to match your stories. And if they think your stories were inconsistent, then your chances for approval were slim. So life here is very different from life where I lived. We go through terrifying experiences before coming here. But we come with the mentality that we have to work hard to be successful in America. Only those who work hard are really successful in America. We embrace our fellow Americans with tremendous energy and success. We move on to working right away. Some of us hold more than 2 jobs. Some of us hold 2 jobs, like me. So we attend colleges, universities, raise family, and ultimately contribute to our community. We have accepted to come and live in America with the understanding and expectations of becoming great members of society. We are very thankful to live in a generous and welcoming country, dedicated resettlement agencies, and American friends who are there every day in helping us adjust well, business owners consistently, tirelessly helping us in providing jobs and item materials and services. So this is the opportunity that America has given me. But the same type of opportunity I got is what millions of refugees are waiting in the camps, have been waiting for over decades. But now that with the executive order in place, that can happen. And the future of these refugees is uncertain. I hope our president will understand and that he will lift the executive order for good and forever and open America's doors to helping out needy people as usual. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Anybody has a question?
No, I just want to thank you for being here.